Every era of music has different levels of artists. For example, there are always those who are standouts, and they're never forgotten, regardless of how much time has passed. This applies to artists such as James Brown, Michael Jackson, Prince, Elvis, and Frank Sinatra. Everybody knows who they are. You also have artists who are very popular for a certain period, and many people know who they are at that time. However, the changes in style of music, as well as the passage of time, allow certain people to become largely forgotten. Billy Stewart is one of those artists. Starting in the mid-1960s, Stewart was becoming one of the popular acts in R&B. He had 4 songs hit the top 20 on the R&B charts, as well as one top 10 pop hit. However, a tragic accident would take away his opportunity to build on what was becoming a great career. William Larry Stewart was born in Washington, D.C. on March 24, 1937, to William Sr. and Emma. He grew up in a large musical family to include cousins and other relatives who could all sing and play instruments. However, Billy stood out from everyone else. He was playing the piano when he was only 8. When he was 12, he was standing in front of the congregation at church, leading everyone in song. Eventually, Billy's mother formed Billy and 3 more of her sons into the 4 Stewart Brothers Gospel Quartet. For 5 years, the boys had their own gospel radio show and were singing on the radio every Sunday morning. They also sang at many churches in the Washington, D.C. area. Switching over to secular music, Billy would participate in talent shows all around the city. Occasionally, he would find himself competing against Herb Feimster, who would later become famous after a name change to Herb Fame as half of the duet Peaches and Herb. Sometimes, Billy would sing with Marvin Gaye in the group The Rainbows. He only did that occasionally, though, to fill in for regular members who, for whatever reason, couldn't make a particular show. In 1955, rock and roll star Bo Diddley offered Billy a spot in his band as a piano player. This took Stewart to Chicago, where Bo Diddley grew up. As a singer, Stewart wasn't like anybody else. Along with his love of calypso music, he combined a double stacking or repeating of words, a rolling of his tongue, and scatting to create a style that was unique to him. Stewart signed with Chess Records and released his first song, Billy's Blues, in 1956. After the song didn't chart or make much noise, Billy headed back east. In 1957, he signed with OK Records, releasing 2 songs for the label. Again, however, his songs failed to chart. After this, Billy wouldn't record another song for 5 years. In 1962, Billy returned to Chess Records. This time, he worked with Billy Davis, who was the A&R man at Chess. Billy's first single after his return, Reap What You Sow, came out in 1962 and hit number 18 on the R&B charts. The B-side was a song called Fat Boy, which was a nod to Billy's weight. At times, Stewart weighed close to 300 pounds, and his weight was always an issue with him. People often ridiculed him about it as well. As a result, Billy was insecure about it, and he would make other songs, like Fat Boy, that seemed to also tie into that insecurity. We're going to take a time out from our story to ask you to like, subscribe, share, comment, hit that notification bell, and repeat when it comes to our videos. Now, back to our story. As he began becoming a priority on the label, Stewart started working with songwriters like Willie Henderson and Maurice White. White would later found the supergroup Earth, Wind and Fire. In 1965, Billy released the album I Do Love You, which hit number 2 on the R&B charts. The album featured the title song, which went to number 6 R&B, as well as Sitting in the Park, which went number 4 R&B. These songs made Stewart into a star. The next year, Billy released the album Unbelievable, which hit number 7 on the R&B charts. Summertime was the standout song on this album, as it hit number 7 R&B and number 10 on the pop charts. Summertime was a song that was originally written by George Gershwin in 1934. However, Billy believed that he should get a songwriting credit, as well as the royalties that went with it for his version. After all, he'd made it into a crossover hit. As a result, Stewart constantly hounded Leonard Chess, the owner of Chess Records, about getting him a portion of the writer's credit. After enduring this for some time, Chess gave Stewart an address and told him to take his issue to the composer. Maybe he would give Stewart a piece of the credit. Once he had the address, Stewart flew to New York, caught a taxi, and began circling the city trying to find the location. Eventually, the cabbie found it and stopped to let Stewart out. Looking at where he was, Billy was furious to find out that Chess had given him the address to George Gershwin's gravesite. Next, also from the Unbelievable album, Billy's single Secret Love went number 11 on the R&B charts. While Stewart would continue to record for the rest of the 1960s, he didn't release any additional hits. In the late 60s, Billy's obesity began to catch up to him as he developed diabetes and was often sick. During that same time, Stewart, as well as his band members, had tragic incidents with vehicles. In 1968, several members of Billy's band burned to death when the car that they were in flipped over and caught fire. The next year, in 1969, Stewart himself had a motorcycle accident. However, he suffered only minor injuries. In January of 1970, Stewart bought a brand new 1970 Ford Thunderbird. He would get to enjoy the car for less than 2 weeks. Shortly after he got it, the brakes weren't working properly on his Thunderbird. It was suggested to him that he not take the car when leaving town to do his show, but instead to take his truck. At the time, Stewart agreed with what was said to him, but ultimately he decided to take the car anyway. The morning of January 17, 1970, Stewart and 3 of his band members were driving near Smithfield, North Carolina. They were headed to Columbia, South Carolina for a show. Billy's vehicle was being followed by a van that contained more members of his band. According to their testimony after the incident, they could see that Billy was struggling with controlling the vehicle and was getting assistance from the passenger in the car to try and grab hold of the steering wheel and keep it straight. Despite their efforts, the car crashed into a bridge support, turned upside down, then fell into the Neuse River, which was below the bridge. Despite the Neuse not being a very deep river, anywhere from 8 to 12 feet deep, all 4 men would lose their lives. Billy Stewart was only 32 years old. After his passing, Sarah Stewart, the executrix of Billy's estate, sued the Ford Motor Company, claiming that mechanical failure of the vehicle caused the accident. The case was eventually settled out of court. Billy once said that, quote, "Before I leave this earth, I'm going to make sure everybody know who Billy Stewart is," unquote. Stewart was an innovator, and over 50 years after his passing, his music is still being discovered for the first time by music lovers everywhere. Without knowing it, they're making what he said come true, one new fan at a time. What's your favorite Billy Stewart song? Let us know in the comments. Thank you all for checking out our video. We appreciate you spending time with us. We have other videos that need love too. Take time to check those out as well. Thanks again and see you soon.